My name is Barney Stejskal. I reside at 1289 Smithtown Avenue, Bohemia. We have been residents, or at least I have been a resident of Bohemia since 1928, in the month of April when my dad first bought the Central Hotel. At the present time, I reside at that home with my wife Elsie. My children reside up in the Rochester, New York area. I will begin by saying I have what I term an evolution of hotels and taverns in the hamlet of Bohemia from before the turn of the 20th century to the present time of August 1995. Before the turn of the century, in 1890, there was a hotel at what is now Church Street and Smithtown Avenue. Was owned and operated and built by the Nahawick family. Some of the descendants are still alive in Sayville, one particularly named Milton Nahawick, which was a cousin of the family that had the hotel here in Bohemia. One of the Nahawicks became the mayor of Mineola, Long Island. And the house that I am presently living in was built for the matriarch of the Nahawick family, the mother, in 1924. And I think it was the first house in Bohemia that had a clothes closet in each of the 3 bedrooms. Anyway, the Nahawicks ran that hotel for many years, and finally sold it to a family named Popujak, who operated it until they sold it to another gentleman named Cyril Chovanets. This hotel had 2 bowling alley lanes. Chovanets operated it for many years, and then sold this hotel to a Matthew Bilyacek from New York City, who on 71st Street had a big livery stable. At that time, motorized moving vans were a novelty. He had horses and wagons and a lot across the street where the wagons were. And Matt Bilyacek ran this with his 2 sons, Bobby, and I can't remember the name of the other lad, who I believe has recently... Rudy. Rudy, I think, died in this past year or 2. And then Matthew Bilyacek sold it to another New York City gentleman whose name was John Shoppershula. But John chose a name John Saber because Shoppershula was too hard for the average person to pronounce. And John successfully ran that hotel for quite a few years, and then he sold it to a lady, I cannot recall her name.
Helen.
Yeah. However, while Matthew Bilyacek had it, the bowling alley lanes were dominated by Joseph Chedney, who operated the best Czech bakery in the world. And I can still see Mr. Chedney throwing a ball down a lane, and all of a sudden it would wear off into the gutter, and he would say, "Oh, where do I throw that thing?" Good bowler, and he really enjoyed those lanes. Well, the lady that hotel was sold to burned down during her ownership, and that was right up on this corner here. The Central Hotel that my family owned in 1928 was originally owned by the Frank Hummel family, who owned and operated it for many years, later selling it to another Bohemia resident named William Knyako, whose son still resides here on Smithtown Avenue, a few houses from my home. And Bill Stejskal bought it after the First World War. He owned and operated it for a few years, and he sold it to a gentleman named Charles Graves, who sold it to my dad, Joe Stejskal, in April of 1928. Prior to that, my dad was in partnership with Charlie Mazanek in Holbrook, where they bought a place in 1926, the Sunrise Farm Boarding House. And my dad was in partnership with Charlie Mazanek for just about 2 years, and they broke up the partnership, and my dad bought the Central Hotel. This hotel burned down in late 1936 while our entire family was asleep upstairs in the bedrooms. And at about 5:30 that morning, a milkman on his route coming from the north southward saw a fire in the north corner of the attic of the building, which was a 3-story building, and broke down the side door on the north side and woke us up and got us out of there. And the building burned right down to the ground. There was nothing left of the structure. As a primary result of this fire, my dad died about 6 months later of a massive heart attack. My mother and sisters and I then rebuilt the hotel in late 1938 after the settlement with the insurance company. It took that long to settle. After I came back, and I went into the service in active duty on September the 1st, 1942, came back, discharged in October 1945, and in that interim period, my mother and my sister and my younger sister operated the hotel during that World War II period. About late 1945, early 1946, I decided that the tap room, which was in the dining room at that period, the bar, was not big enough. Our business started to pick up, and we built an addition on the north side of the building, which was the tap room or the bar room, and enlarged the dining room a bit. And we operated this and finally sold it in November of 1954 to a party, Virgie and Freddie Heisner of Astoria, Long Island, who ran it for a few years, attempting to run it the way we did in a Czech restaurant, but were not quite successful. They then sold it to a German couple, Al and Tina No of the Bronx, who were quite successful running it and ran a very good hotel, excellently clean, and had a good cuisine. Then Al No and Tina sold that and to an Italian family who ran it for a few years and weren't successful with an Italian restaurant, and sold it to 3 gay school teachers who came from West Islip and taught in the Bayport schools, who then sold it to William and James Shalley of Bohemia. William Shalley was a social studies teacher at the Connecticut High School, and his brother Jim operated the hotel and the barroom. During this operation, the hotel burned down finally for the last time on that site. Al and Tina No then built a bar and dining room on what is now Lakeland Avenue, and ran a very, very nice, successful operation, both of them being very, very lovely people. In the early 30s, Mr. and Mrs. Al Jivish, who was known as the Baron Jivish, he wanted everybody to know that he was of royalty in Czechoslovakia. The fact is that the Baron was no more of a royalty than I am, because he was a barber by trade, the same as my father was. My father's trade originally was a barber, and he and Baron were barbers in Yorkville section of Bohemia. However, they bought the Otto Shavenka garage building, which is at the corner of what is now Lakeland Avenue and Smithtown Avenue, and the contractor was Winnie Benedict, who was also the architect, and the structure took the better part of 3 years to be built, because Winnie would make the plan, build the structure according to plan. The Baron and Mrs. Jivish decided they wanted different, so it was torn down and another addition was put on, and it took quite a while. Anyway, they operated it for quite a while, the Baron and Mrs. Jivish. Both of them were very, very nice people. And they later sold it to I forget the gentleman's name, who ran a successful operation under Chateau La Boheme. I think it was Gus Voss. Gus Voss was his name, and his wife, I think, is still alive. Yeah, and Gus ran a very nice place, excellent cuisine, and he sold it to the present. Voss sold it to what are now the present owners, who renamed it the Normandy Inn, and it's an excellent restaurant. The last time I was in there was to an 80th birthday party of Barney Pagels, Faye and Barney Pagels, and we had an excellent time that afternoon. Charlie Mazonik built a tavern from what was the Joseph and Amelia Bardick house on Church Street, and Charlie had a successful operation there, also a Czech restaurant, and operated for many years. Sold it to John Wolfe, who all ran it for several years, and to a party that I cannot remember their name, and during their regime, the structure burned down. Then there was another tavern run by William Zajac, which was on Walnut Avenue, south of Church Street, and it was in the speakeasy days, and later on, Prohibition went out in 1933, and Bill operated the bar down there and was quite successful. Also during that time was a very, very famous place on Smithtown Avenue, north of what was the Central Hotel, which was run by the Resitsky family, Charlie and Tony and Pop Resitsky, and it was known as the Ranch. That was during the Prohibition era, where Charlie and Tony made bathtub gin, they made Kimmel and rye, and they made a peach and gin combination. It was all made in the second floor bathroom upstairs in a bathtub. And that is the truth. They had a wooden paddle, and they would mix a batch of it up in the bathtub. And then it was sold to us to the younger people for $1 a pint. And it was quite potent, believe me. And then the Russetskis died one by one, Tony and Charlie and Dad Russetski, and that became the Nemeth Pocketbook Factory. We have now at the present time, commencing with the Normandy Inn at the north end of the village. Then we come to the Four Provinces Pub. I don't know the name of the owner, Bridgie something. And then we come to another famous establishment right here, just a little north of the Bartunek House, called Two Co-eds. And then we have Mustachios on Church Street. And I think that's about all the taverns we have at the present time in Bohemia. Bohemia has to have at least...
Mercer's on Sunrise.
Oh, that's considered Bohemia. Mercer's, it's like an Irish pub, right? It's steakhouse. I haven't been there myself, but some people tell me the cuisine is quite good. Bohemia has always been blessed with taverns in the old days, run by where you could take your family, you could take your children. In our hotel, families used to come out from New York. The Simonetti family that lived on Carshik Street, the Skolins who still reside there, the Helfriches, the Coppola family, they all came to our house. The Yeagers family who lived on Central Avenue, but they came to our place because our place was a family place, not just an ordinary gin mill or bar. The same applied for Charlie Marzonics, and the same applied for the Hotel La Boheme, and the same applied for Al and Tina No's place. And we were blessed with all fine establishments. Today, most of our problems, they're not at the Normandy Inn and don't seem to be at the Four Provinces. Most of our problems here emanate from the two co-eds. Mustachios, I don't know of a problem. And the people here enjoyed those establishments and the taverns. But I got to go back a few years. When Otto Cervenka had the garage on what became the Chateau La Boheme, Eddie Cavanda had a garage on this end of the village. Directly south of Otto Cervenka's garage was another garage owned and operated by Eddie Cavanda and John Stillharder. Eddie Cavanda had made many friends along with John, and there was a couple from New York City, a vaudeville couple named Duke and Grace Cameron. Both vaudeville people and retired, and consequently had many show people in their life. But Grace operated on Ocean Avenue in Ronkonkoma, which was what we would term a house of ill repute. It was another type of chicken, Texas chicken ranch. But Grace apparently ran a good place. There was never any trouble. Some of her patrons happened to be songwriters from Broadway. The two people that wrote the song I found a $1 million baby in a 5 and 10-cent store, and Bye Bye Blackbird were written in the office of Ed Cavander's garage in a space period of about 20 or 25 minutes. It was a fantastic thing, and everybody, those of us know Bye Bye Blackbird, and I found a $1 million baby. And so many nice things happened in Bohemia, and I've been here now for basically 63 years. No, it's 1928, 67 years we've resided here. And I'm happy to be here. I don't want to move anywhere else. My roots are really deep in the ground here, and I will continue to live here. I will not live in Florida or North Carolina or Georgia or any place else. And I have made many, many friends I cherish, my family cherishes. And I can say this is still a very, very nice community, probably one of the best in the state of New York. And I'm happy to be able to make this presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Barney. Barney, dinners. When you had the dinners, how much did you charge for the dinners?
We
Family style.
in the Depression period, we served what was called a family-style dinner for $1.25 a person. A family style meant that, for instance, Elsie Tomei's family with Grandpa Fiala, they would all come in and would set up the table, and it was roast duck, roast pork, and sauerbraten. And we would bring the entrees out on platters. If you didn't have enough, we'd refill the platters. We also sold, when I was dumplings, sauerkraut, soup, the entree, roast duck, roast pork, sauerbraten, sometimes roast goose, along with Czech pastry that my mom and my sister made, and later on my wife Elsie, who I married in 1945 when I came back from the service. And we would make strudels and pies and Czech bread we know as Vanochka. And that was $1.25 in the Depression. Later on was raised to $1.75, again family style. We served on Saturday nights 2 jumbo crabs. When I say jumbo crabs, they each were this size, which I got shipped from Chrisfield, Maryland, in boxes. They were packed in seaweed and ice, and we sold that platter for $1 with tomato and lettuce and French fries. $1. Later, they raised the price of the crabs a nickel, so I got $1.25 from. When we sold the place in 1954, I think we were getting $2.75 for a dinner, which was still
Expensive.
unbelievable. Compared to the food that you get in restaurants today. And Charlie Marzonic had wonderful food. The food you get in restaurants today, in my candid opinion, is garbage. You're paying tremendous amount of money for food I wouldn't dare to serve in my own home. It's cold, it doesn't taste right, the service is lousy. And I have to tell you one incident. There used to be a family from East Islip, was a steady customer of ours. His name was Leo Slavy. And he was a bookmaker on horses and any kind of gambling. And he used to come with his family during the $1.25 period, and there used to be 8 to 10 to 12 of those people, and they would sit there, and Leo, nothing was ever right for Leo Slavy. He always found fault with something. And my youngest sister, Georgie, was one of the waitresses. Rosie Fry was another waitress that worked for us. Thank you.
So you didn't realize.
And one Sunday afternoon, I don't know what bit Leo Slavic, but he was a very hard customer to please. Now you can imagine for $1.25, family style dinner, and we served everything hot. Everybody knows, right? And nothing ever came cold on the table. Nothing ever came half done. And he found something wrong. And when he got ready to pay the bill, he gave the money to Georgie, and when she gave him his change, he threw a quarter on the table. And Georgie came crying to me at the bar. And I went around the bar, and I picked the quarter up from the table, and I walked over to Leo Slavy, and I said, Leo, here's the quarter. If you need another $1, I'll give it to you. But don't you ever again set foot in my place, because if I see you coming on the front step, I'm going to knock you right out into Smithtown Avenue. You have insulted my family, and I will never forget it. He never came there again. And it was one of the bad experiences we had at that time with a customer. I don't think anybody ever complained. Elsie knows, Laurie knows, Faye knows, everybody, the old timers know. We took pride in what we served in our restaurant. Our bathrooms were excellently clean in that you could have ate your dinner in the bathroom. And I'll tell you.
You had weddings too.
Yeah, we had weddings. We had fire department dinners, and you know.
How long ago? We missed part of it. How many years back? How many years back?
Well, my dad bought the place in 1928. He died in 36 after the hotel burned down, and 1942 I went into the service, and my family never saw me again until late April in 1945. I never had a day's leave. I went directly from Virginia to the West Coast and into the Pacific in December of 1942. Never saw my family. My mom never knew where I was for almost 2 years. She knew I was somewhere in a war, but didn't know. Anyway, we were, to recollect just a bit, we were on one island which the Japanese called Nissan Island, the same as the car is. Only the American military called it Green Island. So I had permission from my commanding officer, Commander Karate, to write a letter in Czech to my mom, providing I would not reveal anything of a military secret. I was a chief petty officer, chief storekeeper, and we only had one officer in our outfit. He was the Dennis, Lieutenant Wisniewski, who was Polish, but he couldn't read Czech, and I promised I wouldn't write anything of a military nature, and I never did, except to write to my mom, and I'll translate it later. Daha maminko, já jsem na krásnej zelený ostrov. Translated, I am on a beautiful green island in this area. And that's the only thing that I ever wrote that might have been interpreted militarily. But the Japanese called it Nissan Island. It was between Bougainville and Ray Ball, which was a real hot area at that point. Anyway, that's about all I have to narrate at this time. And yes.
Did you have a picture taken there?
Yes.
Taken and it had Central Hotel
Yeah.
over your...
That was on Bohemia in the Russell Islands, which was... Our first stop was Guadalcanal. We were attached to the 1st Marine Division. Then our next invasion was at Bohemia and the Russell Group, which was north of Guadalcanal and Savo Island and Tulaga. Then on Bohemia, we were then getting ready for the next push into the Green Island area. And while there, I built 3 of my buddy storekeepers, chiefs, I should say. We built our tent on a wooden deck. The wooden deck was mahogany, the type of mahogany which is known as Philippine mahogany. The floor was solid mahogany, the cycler. We had our own lumber mill, the Seabees. We were a self-sufficient outfit. And I had a sign made in the paint shop. My buddy in the paint shop was Chief John Held. He was also a chief carpenter's mate, and he made me a sign, Barney Stejskal's Central Hotel number 2. Regretfully, that along with pictures of the Central Hotel were stolen last October. I had all of it in a 75-pound safe, and our house was vandalized October the 6th while we were attending a Bohemia Historical Society meeting in the John Pearl School across the street. 7 o'clock, when we came home 10 minutes to 10, our house looked like 14 wildcats went through it. And they took my televisions and everything, including the safe was downstairs in a big locker, and they broke the locker open and took the safe out and had all the family mementos. I even had some Indian pennies that belonged to the Historical Society that Elsie's cousin left to the society, and all of that was taken. Anyway, and I came back late April. Oh, when I was in a hotel before the war, before all of us young fellows went away, there was 125 of us young men went into the service from this little hamlet here. And before, when I was at home tending the bar, I would tell the fellas, there's a girl that one of you guys should marry. That's the best girl in Bohemia, and one of you guys should marry her. That was Elsie Hindler. Now I come home. I come home on a 30-day leave from the Pacific in California and in here, and the first night who's there? But my present wife Elsie, and she's still single. So Elsie and I used to date on and off before the war, and we had a date, and we went out to dinner. We went out bowling to Oscar's in East Islip, and during the 30-day period, we got engaged. And while in California, I had to go back to California, thinking I was aware that I was going to be shipped back into the Pacific. When I got back to California, I reported at the officer of the day, and he says, Chief Storekeeper, report topside to Captain McDonald, Supply Corps. Captain McDonald said, I have 2 job openings here. One in charge of 27 galleys, 40 warehouses, bowling alleys, officers' quarters, and you can have that one, or you can have in charge of clothing and small stores, which was supplies and the clothing and like that. And I said to him, Captain McDonald, in any one of these units, are there wave people, wave personnel? He says yes. Not in galleys and not in warehouses. In clothing and small stores, we have waves working along with the men. I says, Captain, it's not that I'm against women. I love women. I says, but I feel I could do a better job with men in the warehouse and in the galleys. He said, the job is yours. Well, my buddy took the job in clothing in ship stores, and about 2 weeks later he came to me, did you know something that you didn't want that job in clothing and small stores? I said, not really, but I thought I could do a much better job with men personnel. I said, I didn't know any more than you did. And he was young and unmarried, and he had one hell of a time, trying to get that place straight. And I used to go there at night after his personnel was gone and help do the inventory so that he would be in good shape whenever there was an inspection. Anyway, I was very happy, and happy there for a while. But in the Pacific, on the islands, you didn't salute officers. They didn't want to be saluted with snipers around and anything. So nobody saluted. Well, when we got back to California, every time you passed an officer, you had to do what we called bang 'em, bang 'em. And I just got, I was used to 30 months in the Pacific and never saluting any officers. I said, sir, and called him captain or lieutenant, but you never saluted him. Anyway, I went to Captain McDonald. I said, Captain McDonald, may I ask to be transferred out into the islands again? And the old man said, Chief, this is late July. He says, this war is going to be over very shortly. I don't know anything more than you do, but I have a strange, strong feeling that this war is not going to last another month. You stay here, stay with me, and he says, you get back out there, it'll take you a year to get back home. The finest advice I ever had was my favorite officer was Captain McDonald. He was a 4th striper, and as you know, on August the 13th, the war was over in the Pacific. And in passing, I want to say something. I get very much perturbed, very upset when I see a bunch of do-gooders say we never should have dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because I say that those 2 bombs not only saved probably 1 million lives, American lives, but also Japanese lives. Right. And till today, I salute what I called was a very fine president who said, the buck stops here at this table. And he made the decision to drop those bombs. And I say, God bless you, Harry, wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Barney, excuse me. The last people that own the Normandy now, I don't think you mentioned, what nationality are they? The people that took over the Normandy restaurant.
Normandy?
Own it now.
What nationality?
Oh, they're German. Oh, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
They're not Czech.
Yeah. They're not Czech people, no.
No Czech.
And I thank this opportunity to meet with all of you people. Thank you very much.
Oh.